Hello guys, I'm currently in the backyard of my childhood home and I wanted to talk about what it means to live a meaningful life. So what does that mean? We're going to be diving into Seneca's book on the shortness of life. I read it 3 times and I went through it, and I'm going to tell you guys my summary of the book and my interpretation of Seneca's teachings on what it means to live a meaningful life. The book was extremely short, however, each chapter is filled with so much depth that you can't just read this book once. So just because there's not very many pages doesn't mean that this will take a short amount of time to read if you actually want to understand what Seneca is trying to teach. So the book is split up into Roman numeral chapters, so I'm just going to go chapter by chapter and explain what I learned from each chapter and interpret his in-depth discussions in a more simplistic, digestible manner. The first thing Seneca talks about is the fact that a lot of people don't become ready to live until they're on their deathbed, regretting how they lived their life. He also says that we don't have a short amount of time on this earth if we use our time adequately. There's actually a lot of time. Humans just waste a lot of their time. So if we actually use our time in an appropriate way, that can lead to a fulfilling life. But a lot of us will just completely waste our time. The way I related to this was in 2026 through our phones and social media. For me, I think something I will regret is if I get to my deathbed and I didn't experience enough of actual life and I lived too much of a virtual life. Because being in a virtual world, we can experience a lot of things without actually experiencing them. But physically being somewhere is completely different than experiencing something through a screen. And I think that's something a lot of us need to be able to differentiate between in the modern day. This is my interpretation of other things he was saying. If you don't capitalize and take responsibility for your own actions to use the time you are given, life is going to pass away in the flash of an eye. And life is not short. It's just short because much of our time we waste. So we have to manage our time appropriately to lead a good life. Chapter 2 is about learning how to live your life, and here my interpretation was he is saying the way to lead a meaningful life is to find your purpose in life. Seneca was describing multiple ways in which you can waste your life. He thinks that you could waste your life in the pursuit of war or too much success, too much wealth, or even too much worrying and anxieties about things that are completely out of your control can lead to you wasting your time and your life. And he describes all of these pursuits as forms of lust in their own ways. And I'm going to read one of my favorite quotes from this chapter. He said, "The part of life we really live is small, for all the rest of existence is not life, but merely time. Vices beset us and surround us on every side, and they do not permit us to rise anew and lift up our eyes for the discernment of truth. But they keep us down when once they have overwhelmed us and we are chained to lust." So here he's saying, don't be chained to lust. Lead a life that is fulfilling your purpose. Do not fill your time with these negligible activities that do not matter in the grand scope of your life. Now for chapter 3, Seneca stated an analogy that just completely resonated with me. He said, if you won't lend away your money, why lend away your life and your time? Because time is so precious. Each moment is actually so brief. If you think about it, it's hard to say each moment even exists because time is constantly passing. Time is never in our grasp. It is always running away from us. So it's the most precious thing on this entire planet. So why do we give our time away so easily? He says to create a life where you have time to be at your own disposal. Do not waste too much time on a mistress, a client, or even a hardship, because we have fewer years to our credit than we can count. And And I really reside with this. I know I haven't lived too long of a life, but I'm 26 now. And looking back even at the past 8 years, I think, where did the time go? I remember being a first-year university student like it was yesterday. And now I'm in the 3rd year of my PhD program. Where did the time go? And I don't want my entire life to feel that way. I definitely have a few regrets over the past 8 years. I spent too much time in the pursuit of more, in the pursuit of success, in the pursuit of titles, in the pursuit of awards. And I realized along the way, once I started to achieve many successes in my career at this stage in the game, that external achievements are never going to bring you internal value and internal fulfillment. What truly brings me fulfillment is reading and writing and philosophy. And Seneca also gets into that in his later chapters. He also really tries to emphasize that we should not focus too much on the future or the past. We should try to live in the present, because that is the only true moment that we are ever actually in. He also says that it's good to acknowledge that life is not always going to go exactly how we plan it. So just surrender to the fact that anything could happen and that you are on a path that is going to be fulfilled in the way that it was meant to be fulfilled. This chapter was actually really interesting to me. So he talks about the way people use their free time, so their leisure, and he says that people completely waste their leisure. He says that men pray for leisure, but they rarely ever get to enjoy it. So for me, I completely resonate with this, because whenever I'm taking breaks from work, it's hard for me to not also still think about work or my research or the things that I'm going to have to do when I get back to school. So this really resonated with me, because it's something that I'm trying to work on, is leaving work at work and live in the present moment. So something that I've been trying to do, and this might sound a little bit silly, but if I'm out, for example, in nature and I'm worrying about the things I have to do in a month, I check in with myself and I just try to identify things that are right in front of me. So I'm like, wow, this rock is really cool. It's a cool rock. It has like little indentures in it. It's gray and it's silver. So I try to analyze my near surroundings and things that I can actually touch. And that actually allows me to stop worrying about the past and the future and live in the present moment. There was also a game that I watched in a podcast where the guy was saying, if you want to reduce your anxiety and you also want to be very present, look at things and identify something that they are not. So if I looked at a tree and I said dog, if I looked at my Gatorade water bottle and I said pool or Coca-Cola, that is also something that I believe helps reduce my anxiety and allows me to live in the present moment. Okay, we're at chapter number 5 now, and I might split this video up into 2 parts. Here, Seneca emphasizes the fact that everybody is in the pursuit of wealth, but wealth does not actually bring you happiness. You could be locked in a luxurious prison. And I related to this through that show, the Pablo Escobar show, where he was the richest man in the world, but he still went to jail multiple times. Even though he got to build a luxurious jail, he was still in jail, and you could see his character development and that he was extremely frustrated with the fact that he was not free. So a free man is a man that's living a life that is worth living, whereas you could still be rich and locked in a prison. And Seneca says that what makes you rich is being free and your own master. I relate to this through being a child and everybody in my hometown saying, well, if you end up going off to university, you have to be a pharmacist, or you have to be a dentist or a doctor or a lawyer. And I tried out a few different careers. For example, I volunteered at a dental clinic for a while, and I also worked at a pharmacy for a really long time. And in those jobs, I just felt as if I was completely miserable. I did not like the environment. And I was like, I feel chained to this type of work. It doesn't make me happy. So what would I do? I would use the money that I made in the pharmacy job, and I would just spend that money on things that I didn't even need. So I wasn't actually getting fulfillment from my work. So that is why I was like, these are not the careers for me. Even though they might be better financial decisions, they are not, in my opinion, careers that are going to help me lead a meaningful life. Whereas in STEM, I love the freedom that is associated with my work. as a researcher. Even though it is quite stressful, I do get to create my own schedule and manage my own time. So to a certain extent, I do feel free and a master of my own life and time. Chapter number 6, he talks about the fact that it is on you to take accountability to not let time slip away from you, because once again, we can't get time back. It is constantly fleeting. And same thing with chapter number 7, he's saying to make sure, no matter what career you're in, that you always make time for yourself to breathe and do something that you enjoy. Even if it's just reading a book, you should make time within your day to do that. Do not let your work interfere with the things that are a priority to you. We all have time if we use it properly. And I'm going to read a few sentences from this chapter. But among the worst I count also those who have time for nothing but wine and lust. For none have more shameful engrossments. The others, even if they are possessed by the empty dream of glory, nevertheless go astray in a seemly manner. And so that a man had time enough, but those who have been robbed of much of their life by the public have necessarily had too little of it. So the way you spend your time really matters. So yes, you might be in love with your career as a lawyer, but do not associate your entire identity and your entire worth on being a lawyer. Have time for yourself. Paint a picture, read a book, write in your journal, do something that you enjoy to do. Do not be constantly on your phone or at the beckoning call of a client. That is what I took from this. Or as a scientist, do not be constantly chained to my work and my research pursuits. Rather, have a personality that is completely unassociated with my work. Leave work at work, even though I love it, and then be a master of my own time when I do have free time. I liked this quote as well. It wasn't really a quote, but I believe that one of these passages was really emphasizing the fact that there's a difference between living and existing. So don't worry about anything out of your control. Devote as much time to yourself as you can. And I like to interpret this as devote time to yourself and do the things that bring you joy as much as you can, even if it's just spending time with your family or your friends. Make time for that and don't feel bad about it. This next chapter, he talks about the fact that he believes people should not postpone the things that they want to do. And I don't know if I fully agree with this, because I believe in some ways, especially in the developmental years of your brain, so before the ages of 25, it's good to learn how to delay gratification. And it can also set you up for future success, but I do agree in the way he states that if no morrow is guaranteed, I guess the future success doesn't really matter. So here I'm still a little bit on the fence whether or not I completely agree with this passage about not postponing the things that you want to do. So I'm not necessarily sure if I'm interpreting this correctly, but I think he's saying, like, if I hate my job, then quit today. But I also feel as if that's not completely achievable in our day and age, because everything is so expensive. Like, if you have a mortgage to pay, if you have kids that you need to feed, you can't necessarily just quit your job and move to Bali for the rest of your life if you have obligations. So here's a quote. He says, "The greatest hindrance to living is expectancy, which depends upon the morrow and wastes today. You dispose of that which lies in the hands of fortune. You let go that which lies in your own. Whither do you look? At what goal do you aim? All things that are still to come lie in uncertainty." So he's saying that, yeah, you could pray for future success, but you can't guarantee that you're going to have that future. So do the things that you want to do today. This is already a pretty long video, so I'm going to maybe leave it here and do a part 2. But that was the first half of the book. See that there is a lot of depth and a lot of interpretation. I feel like I could interpret this book in 100,000 different ways. So maybe I'll even do a few more videos if I read the book a few more times, if my opinions on the passages change. But let me know if you've read this book and your thoughts on my interpretation of his passages. But yeah, the main takeaway for me is that life is short. Don't waste it. Lead a meaningful life. And don't spend too much time in the pursuit of more, in the pursuit of wealth, in the pursuit of lust, in the pursuit of wine and food. Go for a walk, touch grass, because you never know which day is going to be your last. Love y'all. If you made it this far, please make sure to leave a like, comment, save, and or subscribe to my channel. You guys mean the most to me. Yeah. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a great day.